Welcome to episode 7 of Pushing the Limit podcast. Today's guest is professional motocross racer Jake Nicholls.
Mum and Dad used to try and make me get on the rowing machine and be like,
no, man.
No way. Like,
yeah. Do you know how many bones you've actually broken?
Yeah, 43.
43?
I was professional at 15. Wednesday, and you're like, I haven't got any skin on my ass.
Yeah.
So this man's fighting for the world championship, and he slept on the floor of this room. There's no curtains in this room. I want to race a world championship, and I want to be a world champion. Do you know what I mean? So, I lived in a foyer of a garage for 3 years in Belgium, and any other club race is not taking you. If you want to go, find your way there, sort of thing. And all the time he's like, look, you're never going to be any good at it. Like, just, you know what I mean? And the turn's blown out. It's through the fence over there. So you've got to like turn off of a bit of a crumb of dirt like that big. I was 21. Angry and was like, why are they quicker than me on the practice day? And I hated it.
See ya.
Do you know what I mean?
Smashing you over that bird, mate.
Yeah, my heart rate's like like that. And I come round, like just absolutely sent it.
Boom, boom, Danny Buchan. What a ride this is, and it is on.
Welcome to episode 7 of Pushing the Limit podcast with me, Danny Buchan. Today's guest is no stranger to the tarmac, although he has had a very successful career, I'd say, in motocross, professional motocross racer, Jake Nicholls. Welcome, mate, to, obviously thanks for coming to London and giving me the opportunity to have a chat.
You got the Suffolk boy out of Suffolk, mate. You've done well. I was like Mick Dundee walking around the streets. To get here.
We literally said that, didn't we, on the message? I was like, get in London, boy. And he was like, yeah. I literally come here once a week, mate. That is, once a week for me is like the limit of London because I'm like, well, obviously Essex, but yeah.
I've got sweaty palms even just being here.
Yeah. I thought you were going to have some snakeskin boots on, but no, mate, honestly, thanks for coming in. So we'll start at the beginning and obviously, we know you like tarmac, but we'll talk about your motocross career, where it started, and why motocross?
All days with you.
I know
Back
it was
in, 97, 98.
Mate, it hasn't changed. Well, it has changed a little bit then, but it is literally. Yeah, I mean, why was it motocross for you? Just to be close to your dad, or like? Yeah,
my dad raced quads for years, and he went about a fair bit in Europe and that, doing it when quad racing was quite new and sort of a bit of a thing. And I hated quads, to be honest. So the idea was, I just was desperate to get a two-wheeler, and he finally bought me one when I was about 4, and then just had a go, and loved it. To be fair, just obsessed like most of us probably end up being, and started racing when I was 6, and never looked back, to be fair. Just still feel the same now about it as I did then. Probably had I've had a lot of injuries on the way, so it's probably helped keep the fire alive. You see sometimes people race throughout their career and then get to like 16 and 17 and they're over it because they've just had no stops.
That was me at motocross.
Yeah.
Broken into a million bits.
Yeah. So, but yeah, still doing it, still loving it. And like you said, I have a dabble on the tarmac nowadays a little bit, but not very good at it.
No, we'll talk about that. But what bike would you have ridden when you first? I started on like a Husqvarna 50 little, like literally twist and go. And they had remember the pre-65 autos?
Yeah.
Was you in that?
Yeah, so I started on a QR50, little Honda thing when I was 4 or something, and then went on to Lems 50s.
Yeah.
I think I ended up having about 7 in 1 year because they were that shit, and it just broke the whole time.
Just pulling new ones out the back of the van every time.
Get rid of that one, another one because they were that bad. And then when I was like 5.5, my dad bought a 60cc Kawasaki and then put an automatic or like slipper clutch in it or whatever, and then raced that. And I was winning pretty quickly on it because I think I was quite a big kid, so that helped. And away we went. Really, it was like a roller coaster from there, just flat out loving it. And mum and dad were loving it at that point.
Mate, the Schoolboy motocross is so intense, isn't it? Like, literally, like if you could find a race, you could race every weekend pretty much. Yeah. Every like day off in the week. Did you have a track at home then? No,
so we had like a little garden where I used to have like a little XR80 Honda 4-stroke thing that was real quiet, and used to dick about in the garden on that. But it was every week looking at the TMX for a race to go to, and it's like you say, Schoolboy motocross is intense. I don't really miss it, to be fair. Yeah. Because like I guess when I got to a certain age, I just put so much pressure on myself, and now I enjoy racing way more, and even in the last 10 years, way more than Schoolboy, even though it was my job.
Mate, Schoolboy, I literally just remember like if there was a Thursday off school, Mildenhall. If there was a Tuesday off school, Mildenhall. If there was a national, Mildenhall. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was like when we went to the short circuit, like the tarmac, it was like, what, I've got 2 weeks off. What are we going to do? Like, how are we going
Yeah.
to ride? And yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if people who are listening know about Schoolboy Motocross, but the intensity, but you have to be riding that much to be physically fit. Would you have trained? I didn't train at all back then.
So I was a fat kid. So so from like 5 to 6, I was like a proper chubby kid, and mum and dad used to try and make me get on a rowing machine. I'd be like, no way. Like, just hated it. Hated PE at school. Like, hated school. Hated everything apart from riding a bike, pretty much. But at that age, really, it's just about riding and racing, isn't it? But yeah, like you said, it's intense. You know, like nowadays they ride so much, and even back then, like you said, if you had a chance to go, you'd be practicing in the week. I went to private school, so they were like really gnarly on not having days off, and we used to have to do Saturday mornings sometimes as well. So we used to struggle a bit with that, to be honest, to get out. And every opportunity, I was begging, trying to get out. But nowadays, I don't know how they do it. It's just full on.
Because that's like, obviously, like if you look now at your career back, you've had a long career in motocross, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it's hard, isn't it? Like, it's physical on the body. Like, we were just talking earlier outside of the podcast room about how
I'm
physically
still in pain
abused.
now.
And it is like that, isn't it? Like the intensity of like, obviously your joints, like obviously the injuries you have. It's like minimum of 1 or 2 broken bones a year, pretty much, isn't it? Do you know how many bones you've actually broken?
Yeah,
like
43.
43. Oh, mate, I'm 28, and I thought 43 bones.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not something I'm proud of.
No. Are you feeling it now? You're getting a bit older.
To be honest, I'm all right, because I've done, like you probably have done, like gone through recovery processes with them. I dislocated my hip in 2017, and I know about that because it like tore like the fat off my hip as well. So it's like, if you imagine like your love handle, like my like love handle, that bit of fat like twisted round a bit, so it's like in the wrong place. So I suffer from that a bit, and then I smashed my elbow to pieces years ago, and it's like stuck in a bit of a position. So, but otherwise, considering all of the injuries I've had, like I'm pretty good. But like you said, it's tough. You know, I was professional at 15, and yeah, it's, you know, if you have a year where you don't have an injury, you're buzzing, but you need that to have a good year. Yeah, like, you can't afford to have injuries either. So it's tough. I mean, I wouldn't take anything back, because it's built a character that I am now. You know, resilient to a lot of things, which you have to be, as you know, being a professional racer, particularly in motocross, because there's not really, you know, people are practicing 3 days a week in between a Grand Prix where you race on a Saturday and a Sunday. So there's no real let up, and like you said, you know, to ride a motocross bike compared to racing a road bike, in the difference a lot of the time is just the actual physical brutality on your body, isn't it? You know, I broke my shoulder blade last year, and I had a track day booked like 5 weeks after on a road bike, and I was like, if I can get in my levers, I'm doing it. And I did it. And it was like, and don't get me wrong, I'm wobbling around, you know, slow, but I can do it. Do you know what I mean? If I was trying to go your pace, I'm sure I wouldn't be able to do it. But even just to wobble around on a motocross bike, you can't do that, can you? With a broken shoulder blade, it's
worse.
It's like, it's been a bit of a roller coaster.
And for those people that don't know, who are listening, who maybe only follow like the Superbikes, like you can have like, I don't want to jinx myself here, but let's say you could have 4 years, 5 years without having a serious injury. Sometimes you can have sort of an injury a year, but those sort of numbers are sort of very, like 1 or 2. If you had 3 injuries in a year, it'd be quite unlucky in our game, you know. But like motocross, it's so common, like, because obviously, like if we talked about in your professional career, like what would a Monday to Sunday week look like for you? Like how many times would you train? How many times would you be on the bike? Like
so Mondays you'd typically fly home early in the morning from a Grand Prix.
Well, you've battered just the 2 35-minute motors on a Sunday?
Yeah, but you do on a Saturday, on a typical Grand Prix, you practice at 9 o'clock in the morning for like 30 minutes. And that's like free practice, but it's timed as well. So even though it's free, like, you know, it's always a battle to be at the top of the leaderboard. And then you'd have a 30-minute pre-qualifying. So it's basically a qualifying session for your gate pick for a qualifying race.
Yeah.
So then you race for 30 minutes in the Saturday afternoon for your gate pick for Sunday. So, but that's basically a Grand Prix. It's obviously a Grand Prix in itself. And then Sunday morning, you have 25 minutes practice just to like warm up and shake yourself down, and then 2 35-minute motos. So when I first did Grand Prix, they were 35 minutes plus 2 laps.
That is sickening, isn't it?
They were 40 minutes, and then they dropped the 5, so it went to 30 plus 2. But, you know, they were always like typical motocross tracks in the middle of nowhere. So it was normally like a 2 or 3 hour drive to an airport. So normally it's fly back on a Monday morning. And then we always had to do an hour and a half, like steady cycle when we got home on the Monday afternoon. And then normally it was like a 45 an hour run on Tuesday morning, and either yoga or, depending on how the weekend was, ride Tuesday afternoon again, ride Wednesday. Often it'd be recover, like so nothing on Thursday, and then a 40-minute run on Friday when you get to the track, and then race again Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, it was pretty intense, and like, you know, all the way through, obviously I didn't have a job because I had to live in Belgium at that point to be in the centre of like all the countries, if you like, and the team was in Belgium and they were like really strict on you living there.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, you don't have time to do anything else. Like literally, you know, you people say, oh, how long did you not have a job for? It's like, look at that schedule. How can you have a job?
You can't do nothing.
Yeah, you have to sleep in between that stuff because you can't.
Or just lay on the sofa, resting your legs, or even like just trying to recover yourself.
Yeah, and just getting over like the bangs and bruises of a weekend where you haven't crashed. Like, you know, there's always something in there. So,
mate, even like banging your, even the rub of like your knee braces, even twisting your foot in a rut, like during a moto, which you don't feel. Like you don't feel that, but that takes its toll on the body.
Yeah,
like, there's so many.
Like, conditioned to it, don't you, over time? But yeah, and like the hot countries, like, if it's sandy, it sounds stupid, but you take the skin off your arse cheeks, so you get monkey butt, and then they want you to ride on a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday, and you're like, I haven't got any skin on my arse cheeks. I don't really want to ride.
Stand up, mate. Stand up. 35-minute motor. Stand up.
Yeah. So that was, and a lot of the time I also did British Championship, so it'd be like 2 or 3 weekends of Grand Prix in a row, and then back to England for a weekend of a British Championship. So there was a bit of that. And then they introduced, like midway through my career, a lot of flyaway races where we'd go to like Indonesia or Mexico or whatever. But unfortunately, the way the Grand Prix were, they had a contract with a travel agent like firm or whatever. And so we had to go on the flights that they gave us. But they were always like flight from Belgium to Portugal to Chicago.
Cheapest flight they could possibly get.
4 goes at it. And it would be like, to get to Mexico was like 34-hour
cheers, mate.
day of travel. Do you know what I mean? And it was always, so that was the downside of that a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Is that freed up a little bit now? Like, do they do their own? Do like riders do their own thing now? Or
so
still...
I've been out of it since 17, but I think it's still a little bit like that. But I guess some of the better riders go, do you know what,
mate?
I'll pay my own flight to get there direct. But then they penalise the team if they do that. So like they take the boxes with the bikes in, but they charge them more. It's a bit weird how they do it.
It's a bit funny actually how that works. I never, obviously, like as a spectator now of motocross, like I obviously only really watched the GPs. You never think of like the intricacies of like the travel and like the. What about hotels? Could you do what you want with hotels, or do you have you could
motorhome, you could do what you want with hotels, but like I said, they would always pick like the biggest shithole to build a motocross track. Do you know what I mean? Like, and often in the last 10 years they were man-made tracks, so they'd go to some random place where, you know, someone wants to make this track, and then, you know, there's no hotels. Like we raced in Russia. Honestly, this is a bit of a story, but it's worth telling. Like,
definitely, I'm all ears.
We flew to Russia in 2012, and I knew it was bad because Jackie Martins, who was my team manager, who was a world champion and had raced all over the world in like the 80s and early 90s, just decided to book a holiday in Turkey that same week and weekend, coincidentally. So I was like, straight away I was thinking,
okay, strange.
That's weird why he doesn't want to go to this one Grand Prix. And so anyway, they booked a flight for myself and then Glenn Coldenoff, who was my teammate at the time, who's quite a bit younger than me. And then my missus came, and Jackie was like, yeah, you guys are fine. Get the hire car. It's like 200 miles to the track, and then I was like, yeah. And then what? Where are the hotels? He's like, oh, well, we booked this hotel, and it's just a bit up the road. Sort of like, okay. And then just like day before the travel, it's like, right, that hotel's an hour and a half away from the track, and we got to be on track at 9 a.m. You know what I mean? And so we're like, okay. So anyway, we lived next door to the factory Suzuki owner's daughter, and I spoke to her and was like, look, have you got any spare rooms? Because they'd always booked some more rooms. Yeah. She was like, yeah, we've got this one place 15 minutes away. Okay, sweet. So that's that in my head. So we land, we get in this hire car, which is like, as you'd imagine, an absolute nail. And there's Glenn, who's like 18, I'm 22, Miss in there. Get on the road. Okay, traffic's pretty bad. Yeah, we've got 220 miles left. Okay, 11 hours later, sat now the TomTom at the time ran out, just as in ran out of map. So we just basically, as far as that was concerned, we drove off the end of the earth.
So literally there's just no other road further on.
So I've just pulled up, like, well, what do I do now? Like, we are in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, van comes past with a Monster Energy sticker on it, a heap of a van, but like Monster Energy, that's got to be Motocross.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So we follow him for a bit, and then he just stops randomly in this like shop or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God. And we saw another vehicle that looked familiar. We got there, it was dark on the Friday night, we're racing the next day. I'm like,
did you see the track?
No. I'm just like, this, like, it's taken us all day to do 220 miles. Like, people are like going off the road, passing cars on the ground. It was, next level. And then we get there, get to the hotel room, and it's, honestly, I've got pictures. It's like seen off of Coronation Street, this room. Tommy Sells, like, he was fighting for the world championship at that point, you know, and we grew up racing with him. He's like, mate, have you got a room? Because my hotel's like nearly 2 hours away. I can't do that. And I was like, mate, we've got here, but it is savage.
Literally probably as bad as yours.
There's an armchair and then the bed that my missus and I are sleeping in, and it's tiny. He was like, mate, can I just sleep on the floor? So this man's fighting for the world championship, and he slept on the floor of this room. There's no curtains in this room. Like,
mate,
next level. But there's a hotel built on the track where the track is, because they had a snowmobile world championship there, and all the FIM and everyone like that are all in there. There's jacuzzi. It's like the sickest hotel.
Way. So all the officials are all staying there, and then you boys are slumming it,
mate. Proper. I can't even explain it.
That is.
And then the drive back to the hotel was absolutely something else, because I had to follow the Kawasaki team manager. I asked if I could follow him. He hated me because I turned down a ride from them like 2 months before for the next year.
Kill him.
So he just spent the whole way trying to lose me.
Yeah.
I was like nearly in tears because I was like, if I lose him, I don't know where I'm going. We didn't have phones that worked then,
maps.
Do you know what I mean?
How'd you get on that weekend?
I actually did good. I think I got 4th in the second race, and I think I had like a 9th in the first one. It was
actually
had
like
a good
6th overall or something.
I think I actually got 4th overall.
Oh, cool.
I had a real jump up, but the track was sick. It was wicked. But the weekend, mate, it made me hate the place. And I'm sure it's a well cool place, but it was just a drama.
Mate, I hate anything like that. Do you know, if I don't know, I have this like mad, I don't really suffer with anxiety. I'm quite lucky, but I had this mad anxiety over like, when I'm going somewhere, I need to know where I'm staying. Like if I've got a hotel booked, I need to have been there before. So, you know, that would literally do I'd probably just be like,
it was bad.
Is it worse than M25 then, the traffic and that?
Way worse, because it was like single carriageway. So carriageway roads, and then like there was no word of a lie. It was like a scene off Harry Potter. We was queuing up on the way back to the airport, and there was just this taxi going through the woods. I was like, look at this geezer, and he's just like, and then up and over
the mountain.
Like, oh my, next level.
Yeah, but I say, like, obviously your career, like you had some obviously good years and bad years, didn't you? Really, like, so obviously we spoke earlier about 2012. Like, mate, I looked at the names that like you beat. Obviously, you finished 4th overall that year, didn't you?
Yeah.
And Tommy was 2nd.
Yeah.
But like Febra, Tixier, Koldenoff, Ferrandis, Tonus, all them boys up behind you, like
big names. Yeah, they were. I mean, they were like a year or two younger than me. I'd been in the class a little bit longer, but I was a slow starter. Do you know what I mean? Like when I was 17, 18, I was struggling to qualify. Had to pay to be on teams. Pretty much everyone did then, but like the foreign riders had government money to be on the team. So like the Italian Federation would pay for like Lupino and all them boys to be on there. Koldenoff would get like Dutch Federation or sponsors. So we all had to kind of do that. But I was a slow starter at that point. Tommy was already like banging in top 5s, top 10s. I was scraping to get a point. But then like just crept my way up and just kept at it. And I was just like, proper dogged with it. Do you know what I mean? And then stayed in Macampa in Belgium on Josh Coppin's driveway for like a year.
Ledge.
Pretty much just following him around, practicing with him, trying to do it. And just kind of plugged away at it. And then next minute I was in the top 10 just from doing that on a privateer English team that wasn't amazing and had a limited budget. A good team for what they had. And then Jackie Martins, the Belgian team owner, saw me every week just out there following people, trying to get quicker, and with the missus there on the pit board, just trying to do it, and then let me have a go on his bike, and I was like, oh my God.
This is hell. Yeah.
I mean, his bike was so good, and I was just like, I've got to be on it. And
what brand was it?
It was KTM.
KTM then, yeah.
So same manufacturer I was on, but it was just like so far ahead power wise, and everything was power in those days. Do you know what I mean? So on a 250 anyway. So yeah, it was it was a bit of a journey to get there.
That was a resilience thing we talk about, wasn't it? Like it's like you could just go home and just be like, man, I'm not doing it. But it's that resilience thing that I think is like so embedded from like when we started at 6 years old that you just.
Yeah,
I don't think people, and people that aren't involved in. I think it seems to be a really small circle of like motocross, like tarmac, road racing, whatever. Like it's like that resilience. It's not an option. It's like you're doing it, and I'm doing it.
Yeah,
and I'm going to be a motorbike racer, motocross, supercross, whatever. Yeah, and it's
you've
like
made your mind up, and exactly that. And you know, my dad didn't want me doing it, and it was like, right, fuck you, then I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm doing it now, Dad.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And he really didn't want me to do it, and. Listen, I'm not afraid to say I'm from a privileged background. You know, at that point when I was like 16, 17, I was moving away and living in a camper from a big gaff with a motocross track in the garden and like everything. Do you know what I mean? A kid's dream. But I was like, my dream isn't that. It's I want to race a world championship and I want to be a world champion. Do you know what I mean? So loads of people around me were like, what are you doing, mate? Like,
just leave me to it though. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I know what I want to do.
And I just wanted to do it. And, you know, I lived in a foyer of a garage for 3 years in Belgium in my best years where I was being paid good money. But I didn't care. I was just like, I just want to race.
Was your missus with you then as well? She moved, so she upped and moved?
She quit her job and moved. We had a dog with us and it was...
Is that Ted?
No, it was Jeff. He's senior.
Yeah,
he's still about.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a shit lifestyle, to be honest. It was crap. Like my missus, I don't know how she did it. Really, just sitting about and.
She's still with you now.
Yeah.
So she she must like you then.
yeah, she must. Yeah, something. I don't know.
Yeah, because it is mad, isn't it? Like, and people don't see that. They see like if we had like the Instagram of today, like if we had it then, it would be like, yeah, look at my lifestyle, I'm racing motocross. But mate, I'm literally slumming it.
Yeah, proper. But. You know, being paid all right at that point, but not interested in it. All I was interested in was results and climbing the ladder. That was it. Do you know what I mean?
And what was your old man like then? Like, did you have that conversation with the business? Like, obviously, because if we talk, I want to touch on it later anyway in the show. But obviously, like you're from like your family, like the Nicholls blood, really, isn't it? It's like business.
Yeah.
And was that always like a conversation? Your dad was always like, mate, want you to be involved
massively. Yeah. I mean, he joined his dad at 11 years old left school at 11.
Mad, I read the story, awesome.
He was just all the way through every time I got hurt or whatever, just come work with me, just come work. And I was like, don't want to, like, I want to race.
Yeah.
And like, I just didn't like the environment. I used to go to the yard a bit with him in school holidays, but they all smoked in the office. You know, the office would be just like a layer
so
of smoke.
Old school.
And like in those days, we didn't know it was bad for us, but I just used to sit there like that. And he was like, take the fucking thing off. I was like, I don't like it.
I don't want to smoke.
And
Dad smoked then?
Yeah, they were savage, like 40 a day, him, his sister, my granddad, like relentless. So, and I just didn't like the environment. And I like diggers. I always drove diggers, but it was just, and there wasn't like heavy equipment. Like now we deal with massive machines and like proper earth moving. Then it was more like lorries, trucks, forklifts, and like it was, real like hire and sale business. And the plant hire was like a spin off. So it's like, it was completely different. And all the way through, he was like, just come work. And I was like, no, don't want to. And fair play, he stepped away. When I was 14, he was like, I'm not going to race anymore. I'm not interested. I'll take you the odd time here and there, but you go with, at the time it was just a chap called James Cottrell, his dad.
James, James.
Yeah, so it was like, you go with him, I'll take you to 6 British Championships a year, that's it. Not anymore. And I actually had a good year when he did that.
Why 6?
Because that was all there was. BYMX.
Yeah, okay. So literally. I'm taking you to the BYMX, and that is it. Yeah,
and that was it. And then any other club race is not taking you. If you want to go, find your way there, sort of thing. And it made me, because it was like, right, I'm doing this. Do you know what I mean? And he, all the time he was like, look, you're never gonna be any good at it. Like, just, you know what I mean? And then it went on from there. And I was always kind of interested in the business, but at that point the business was big. It got like they sold up in 2015. They had 5,000 telehandler JCB forklifts alone. Do you know what I mean? It's a big do. And I just wasn't, for me to walk in that business at that point, like, where do you start? I didn't have a skill. Do you know what I mean? I'm not an engineer. I can drive machines, but at that point it was all self-drive hire. So there was no operated jobs, you know what I mean? So I'm like, where do I go? And you sit in an office with my dad, his phone's non-stop. he hasn't got time to explain a conversation to you about what's just happened. Do you know what I mean? It's just manic. He's buying, he's selling, he's dealing with someone about the next job or this, that, the other. So you can't pick that up, really. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's like
It's
a natural
hard.
thing.
Yeah. So I just stayed completely away. But then when the business was sold, and he started up a Chippers R Us, which is kind of part of what we do now, and there was 20 people there, so it was like a way easier process to merge into that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And just touching back on the motocross, like there's such a bridge now, like to be gapped, isn't there? But like British motocross riders going, like I remember turning up to a track before, and Tommy was like, there's no point in me coming to this track until 4 o'clock, yeah, because it's nowhere near, even at 4 o'clock, it's not even rough enough for me to get any motos in that's relevant for World Championship. Yeah. Like, is it because of the tracks are so rough? Is that why you had to move to Belgium, just because that was like...
Yeah.
Because you've got obviously got Lommel, you've got some of the best tracks really in the world, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, and you're 100% right. So the tracks are so rough on the weekend, even from like halfway through the first practice. And the way they develop, the racing lines, because the average rider in that group is so quick. The lines that you race at a practice track are just irrelevant. Like, they're really comfortable at a practice track. You come into it, you can cruise into a turn, a nice arc where slower riders have just cripped their way around, and then we get in and you're like, yeah, wicked, and just come out. You go to a World Championship, you come in and the turn's blown out. It's through the fence over there. So you've got like turn off of a bit of a crumb of dirt like
There's
that.
There's like
big.
a foot of rock.
Yeah.
A 2 foot
a load
rock.
of rocks on the outside, and it's just different. So it was, yes, riding around Mildenhall or somewhere like that, it was better than not some of the time. But honestly, some of the time you're better just going training and then and then just turning up on the weekend. But it's Belgium was good for that. When I was there was like 5 tracks that were graded once a week. They were open 5 days a week. There was probably minimum 10 Grand Prix riders there, so everyone was quick. European riders are really, really good when they practice, like exceptional. And I was always shit at practicing.
Just not motivated
terrible.
by it type
I was
thing,
motivated. I just couldn't do it. I ride off anger. Like I'm an angry person when I race. So I step it up. Do you know what I mean? Probably much like you turn up at a race. I'm like, right,
this is what I'm here for. Yeah,
I'm everything on the line now. Practicing, I'll be like, right, I'm going to push as hard as I can. I'm going to switch my brain off and whatever. Can't do it. It's different. So it helped me in a way, because like Colden or Fevre, when they were my teammates, they were like a second to 2 seconds every time we went practicing quicker. But then I'd beat them at the weekend.
So you're just like, yeah, whatever, mate.
Yeah.
Switch on when I want.
But I couldn't see that.
No.
I was 21, angry, and was like, why are they quicker than me on the practice day? And I hated it. I'd be a miserable sod every night of the week because of it.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, you're like, yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah. And what was your persona? Was you aggressive racer? Like, obviously, like, was that just your, like, right?
Fairly aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm also like a fair person though. Like I kind of, in life, I think the way you are in life is portrayed by your riding a bit too, isn't it? And like, I treat people how I want to be treated. And so on the track, I would always be, pretty fair. But then if I got something back I didn't like, it was like,
see ya.
Do you know what I mean?
Smashing you over that bird, mate.
Yeah. And I was always a really good starter. Eventually, when I got on good bikes, I was really good out of the gate. So often my riding was defensive because I wasn't as quick as the boys that were perhaps the top 3 or 4 trying to get through. So I was defensive.
Not around looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, a little bit. But obviously you had to still have the pace a bit. But so that affected, I guess, the way you rode. But it obviously brought you on loads as well.
Yeah, and what about America? Obviously, you went over to America, didn't you? Done a little bit of riding.
Yeah,
them tracks, mate.
Yeah, it's a different sport over there.
They just look. I just can't believe, like, when you look at like the jumps. Like, let's take your track now, for instance. Like, when you look at the up ramp of your jump, it looks like an absolute nightmare, like the ruts. Yeah. And you look at the up ramp of like some of them UK, the states, the tracks in the States, and they're just like long, flat. Yeah, they just look like real nice jumps to do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. That's the only way I can explain my sort of version of the. Obviously, the Supercross is another level, but the motocross tracks look so nice to ride.
The motocross tracks are good. They're completely different though. Like I went and did the AMA National in when was it, 18, and I didn't even get to walk the track. So like the maddest story, like so the race was on Saturday, I think it was. So Friday they have amateur racing from 7 o'clock in the morning until 6 at night. So non-stop, like literally they start a race before the other one's finished.
Yeah, they're pulling the people off. They're pulling people off starting.
Yeah, and then So 6 o'clock comes around, diggers are all over the track. No, you're not allowed to walk it. So they have like a water truck lane, they call it, all the way around the outside, because America's just huge, isn't it? So they've got all this room to like spray the water off the side of this water truck road, and you're only allowed to walk it on there. And I'm talking about Redbud, so it was like Larocco's Leap, which was like
150 foot or something,
yeah,
140
and like a wall, and you can't judge it. Do you know what I mean? It's so hard.
It's
so,
full gas on a 250 or a 450
yeah,
would have been different.
It would.
But
No,
still
it was
full gas.
So I turn up and practice is at 7:30 in the morning. So like, listen, I'm an early starter, but
that's
riding
half
at
seven,
7:30 in the morning on a track you don't know, and guess what? You get 1 lap to learn it. Yeah,
because they're all doing the
green flags. So it's waved yellows first lap. No one's allowed to jump a jump. So I'm like riding around. Oh yeah, this is cool. It's a bit muddy and whatever else because they've watered it. Green flag comes out. Bum. Everyone is pinned.
Triple.
Yeah, everyone like pinned. And I obviously went with the flow. I was like, well, this track's going to deteriorate because it's pretty wet. And my fastest lap of all qualifying was my first full lap of that.
Did you do the Rocco's Leap?
No, I didn't do it. I was like, I can't do it. It's so muddy, and I was on a Canadian rider's practice bike, so it was a bit of a heat. Just didn't think I had enough power, so I qualified 9th. I was sat next to Tomac on the start line for the first race, and I said to my mechanic, I was like, I've got to jump Larocco's Leap on this sighting lap because I haven't jumped it. I'm like, and I know I'm going to get a good start because I'm a good starter, and then I'm going to get landed.
You can't roll it. You got no choice.
I'm going to get landed on it if I get a good start and then roll out on the first lap. So sighting lap comes around, and obviously sighting lap, for people that don't know, is what it says. You just ride around and look at the track and cruise around. But being in America, like Tomac and people like that, they cruise around and then they get to Larocco's Leap. There's a massive crowd, so they all go over it and with it and point at the crowd. So I'm like going back over the straight, looking, thinking, oh, they're all jumping it. They must have graded it.
Larocco's Leap.
Mate, my heart rate's like, like that. And I come around, like just absolutely sent it. Overjumped it by about fucking 4 bikes and just landed like a sack of shit. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And I got back to my mechanic. I was like, I just did it. He was like, what? I said, I just jumped it on the side lab. He was like, what the fuck?
How high? Is that the biggest jump you've had to do?
On a motocross track.
Yeah.
Like, racing. I've had bigger jumps at home, but actually on a race track, it was mad. Just
and who was you racing against then? Who was in that lineup then? Obviously, you just mentioned Tomac.
Tomac, Musquin, Roczen,
the boys,
Webb, all of them.
Just absolute the boys. All of the boys. Yeah, that is just mad, isn't it?
Yeah, I got 9th in the first race as well. I was buzzing, proper buzzing.
That Larocco's Leap, mate. That Oh no, that's not a bit of me. I literally look at it.
I didn't really enjoy it.
Did you not? Was you doing it every lap in the race?
Yeah, I didn't do it on the last, I think, 4 laps of the second race because I was so hanging because it was so hot. I was just done.
And obviously, we spoke earlier about your. So you announced your retirement in 18, didn't? No, obviously you had a bad year since 18, didn't you?
So 17, I retired from Grand Prix because I dislocated my hip in Italy, and I was having a bit of a shit season. And 450s, without going into too much detail, to really, really take a lot of setting up because there's so much power. And I was on a team which we didn't really have much backup, and I was just struggling. So anyway, I was thinking about it a bit anyway, to be fair. And then I was like, without realising, reading into business. I had business books. I was flying to races, looking at them, and kind of didn't tell anyone about it. But obviously, it was in my mind. And then I dislocated my hip and got treated like an animal in a hospital in Italy. And I was just like, I'm done.
I'm never doing this again.
Literally done. So my mum was there, but she was savagely had food poisoning that same day. Oh. So she came to see me 2 days later in the hospital, and I said, Mum, I'm done. I'm just going to race British Championship. I want to work with Dad. The company's new. And then so it transpired from there. So it was like retirement from World Championship, but not from racing.
Yeah, because let's face it, British Championship still isn't exactly mediocre. Like the boys, like that is just again like the intensity level. Obviously, you had the guys like Tommy Searle.
Yeah,
Ryan Houghton was doing all right, weren't he? A few years ago, like there was a few different boys, and it was fast, wasn't it? It's still.
No, it's a good series. I mean, it's been known as the best national championship aside from American, because obviously that's like baseball. It's its own sport, if you like.
American, basically, they call themselves world champions in America.
Yeah, it's its own thing, isn't it? But British Championship's been. British Motocross has been elite. It's like PSB, it has been the elite national championship where you have like your foreigners come over to do it. So it was a good option. I could earn all right money and obviously have a lifestyle as well and not race. Like you got to think, when I was doing Grand Prix, I was never on a factory team, so I always had to do a national championship. So like 2012 and 13, I did 36 races a year.
Why did you have to do national championship? Just to
'Cause all
bolster
our
up your money as well?
sponsors-
Or
yeah, national. So if you looked at the photos of me riding, then there wasn't an inch on the shirt without a
Just sold it.
sponsor. But it was 36 races a year. Like that was so hard on your body. So coming away from that, all of a sudden I signed a deal to race 8 British Championships and 6 MX Nationals, and that was it. And
I was like, hallelujah.
Yeah, it was like I searched for more races still, to be honest, but it was just, it allowed me to, delve into work.
How was that for you mentally? Like that big weight off your shoulders? Was you like, yes? Like,
yeah.
You must have been ready for it, mustn't you, as well? Like,
yeah, I think I was ready for it. I feel like I'd reached my limit with the support I had, and I didn't want to, I'd gone from earning good money to then signing a 450 deal for less, but knowing it was a tougher class. And then I was on a bike where I was like, this is, I was struggling. I needed help to like build a bike that suited me. Because I was on a small bike for like 13 years on a 250F. I was quite aggressive, always been real aggressive on the throttle, and still now I'm real punchy on the throttle. I don't really like slip the clutch a lot. I'm kind of like bang on it. And but that means on a 450, like a lot of these engines they're not really designed for that. They're designed for people that have come, that really
linear power.
And so it was tough. And I just realised, like, unless I ride for nothing. And I could have genuinely gone for nothing and rode on a pretty good team, like nearly or semi-factory team. But I just didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm proud of what I've done. I've worked so hard over the years. I'm not doing that.
It's my job as well. Like, you need to be paid for doing your job. I've got a big
exactly.
thing about this.
And exactly right. And I could have, like I said before, I've been in a fortunate situation where I could have said, hey, Dad, I need some help to get by, because I'm going to ride for free to get on this better team. And do you know what? Sometimes I sit there and think I perhaps should have done that to give myself a chance to go into that class. But I didn't want to do it. I was stubborn. I'm stubborn now, but I was more stubborn then. And yeah, maybe I don't necessarily regret it, but I'd like to have seen what would have happened, because I was a bit dangerous. When I crashed, I was having moments and I was like, shit, I'm trying hard here, and really like I'm 18th in time practice, and I am risking my life, you know what I mean? And so and that weekend, I actually the Saturday night, I cried to my missus, and I was like, I don't understand. I was 18th in time practice, and I thought I had such a good lap. I was on it, do you know what I mean? And like risked it, do you know what I mean? And was 18th, and I was like, don't get it. And
transponders broke.
Yeah, literally. And I had a bit of a meltdown, and she was like, just go and enjoy it tomorrow. And I went and enjoyed it, and then I didn't even crash, put my leg in, like got caught in a rut and popped. And I'm like, I think the signs are there, do you know what I mean? I need to read it and get out. Because
it's such a fun, like it's in your blood. Like if you had 5 years off, you get back on a motocross bike, it's like you never had time off, is it?
Yeah, and you're always good at it, aren't you?
Yeah, and you can always, your fitness isn't the same, but you can literally just hop on.
Yeah.
Who was your favourite rider, like growing up? I was going to ask you that earlier, actually.
Ben Townley.
Yeah, Ben Townley. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good shout. Yeah.
And it's mad because I ended up being really good mates with him.
Did you? Yeah.
He was like my absolute hero because he came over and was like 15 in GPs. I always wanted to be 15 and be in GPs. I didn't quite get there, but just always looked up to him, and then I ended up doing like 4 pre-seasons with him in New Zealand.
That's cool.
At the end of my career, I was like, "Whoa, this is mad."
I always like Everett, so I always watched him that guy. So I've got a little section of the podcast. I'm still waiting for a name for it. I don't know what to call it yet, but it's basically like a track review. So you can literally name any track in the world. It doesn't have to be. It can be motocross. It can be the tarmac. And the idea of it is that anyone can do it. So the first question of the track review. I need to get a cool name for it because the name is dead. Track review. Track review. Needs some work. Favourite track? Again, anything. Motocross, tarmac, whatever you want.
Isle of Wight. I can't remember what the actual place is. Gore Basin, it's called. It's not even there now. In the Isle of Wight, they had a GP there in like 13 and 14, I think.
That is the rubbish thing about motocross. They literally just go
away with it, but it was so good.
And what was your most memorable moment of that track?
Doing the tabletop. I never got to race. I was 14 when they were doing GPs there, but I got to go to a Honda test for the Dirt Bike Rider magazine with a friend who was the chief tester, if you like. And I jumped the back tabletop there on a 250F, and it was fucking huge. And I
Was
was
it?
buzzing.
Yeah, that's literally the next part is the favourite track, the favourite part of it.
Yeah.
And I have got any tips for any track day riders going there, but there ain't gonna be no one going there.
Track
They just
there,
burn it out. Yeah, no one going there, is it? It's fine.
done.
It's all gone.
I think it might be a waste, like actually like a rubbish tip now, which is savage.
And so now we finish with the dirty bikes, the old crossers or scramblers. We're going to talk about your love for men or women driving around in levers, driving around driving on tarmac in levers. Yeah. So have you always been into it? Like I'm obviously curious. I know you track day now, but have you always been into it? Have you always watched it like in your spare time? Or
So I've always watched Superbikes and never liked MotoGP, and
No,
I
that's
still
funny,
like it now.
yeah.
And my old man's opposite. He's like MotoGP mad. And then Superbikes, he struggles, especially with World Superbikes. But this year, last year, to be fair, I converted him after obviously the World Superbike was sick. When this last year, it was unreal, and he enjoyed that. But yeah, so I've always watched it. Obviously, Foggy back in the day, that area was mad, and always wanted to have a go. Never really got the opportunity. And then Kieran Clark, I grew up racing the British Schoolboy Championship with him in the end part of his motocross.
shout him out, mate. Kieran Clark, ledge, absolute ledge, yeah.
And fair play, like he'd always kind of kept in touch, and he was like, you need to come and do a Ron Haslam school. So I think I was 19, went and did that, and yeah, loved it.
Did you get your knee down day one?
Yeah,
yes,
it did, to be fair. And it started off wet, which was probably the best thing that could have ever happened, because I just remember going down. It was the Silverstone, the short track at Silverstone, so down Hanger Straight, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just banging down the gears on a CBR 600.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what's happening?
No
Like, what?
clutch, yeah.
Yeah, and didn't get it. And he was like, mate, you've got to be like
Smoother.
smooth. Yeah. But obviously being from motocross had a kind of a feel for the power, like, and the connection between the back wheel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and was just hooked. So I think I did end up doing two days on the 600 that day and another day, and then jumped on the 1000 because you got more track time. It wasn't for the bike, it was just more track time. And then it was like, I need to get a road license, need to get my own bike. Never did it. Then they moved to Donington, and I did Donington. Was like, holy shit, this is
Craner.
Yeah, next level.
Yeah.
Like, enjoyed it. Still didn't buy a bike, and then basically COVID came, and I was like, I'm doing my bike test. There was one fit. It was the one thing that was missing in my life that like I've done and I love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you really enjoyed it.
I'm really simple with life. I like diggers. I like riding bikes. I like mountain biking. I like jet skiing. It's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then road bikes was like, I like that, and I haven't done that much, and I don't do it much. So I'm like, I'm gonna do my test and get a bike. So did that, and then bought a little 600 off Facebook Markets for like $3,000, and then just took it straight out. Yeah, and was just loved it.
Did you deal him up on it? Did you? Did you get your old man to phone him?
No.
Did you get Dad? Get this for me, cheap mate. Come on.
To be fair, I had
Beat
to
him
do
down.
it. I had to do it through my mate, because I was like, I know if this geezer sees my name, he's going to be like, oh, it's $4,000.
Yeah, it's
away.
definitely, it's gone.
It's going
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But yeah, and then there you go. From there, really just done.
Weirdly enough, mate, I was thinking $6,000 actually. I was thinking six. Let's go $6,000 on the bike. He's like, no, yeah, free. It's $3,000, mate.
$3,000.
Yeah.
So
and that was it. Yeah, he felt like, mate, I did my first ever day on a tarmac at there as well. Ron has the race car. I was a fat little kid. Got there late. Typical of my old man. Got there late. Lever's not fitting. Popped the lever out. Like I was on a little 125, 65 mile an hour maximum. And like you say, like I think the part of the transition, like motocross, you're constantly trying to stay on the bike. Like when people start at road racing, we call it road racing, like the tarmac.
Yeah.
When they start there and they go to motocross, they can't understand that you're constantly falling off the bike, can't you? But you're correcting yourself the way the bike's moving about.
Yeah.
And when I got on that tarmac, I was like, everything's so in line. Like I couldn't it was so strange. But I like same as you. Like if I had a clear visor on, my face would the smile would have just been.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? Like
there's just the rhythm and the flow. Yeah, like
do you know what?
everything's
it's to be honest, it is like a drug, because it's the same every lap. You know, like a motocross track, you come around one lap, boom, sweet, next lap, some dickhead's gone straight through the fence and it's all just gone. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, road racing, as long as the weather's good, same every lap, and you can just keep getting better and better and better. And it's it's like so good. I've got no mates that do it. Like none of my mates have got even a license or anything. I'm like, you don't understand what you're missing out on.
Come on.
This is next level. Like, and do you know what's nice is I'm not that good. And I don't care. I just go and do my days.
You don't need to be good. As long as you enjoy yourself, that's it.
I enjoy. I come away and I'm like, that was wicked.
Less physical, in terms of like on your body. Like, okay, when you get like obviously our level, we
Yeah,
have intense
it's
test
elite
days,
then.
but you don't go home like your joints aren't hurting. You're not like you've not been up in the air and landed on the floor. Like,
Yeah.
it's a nice it was a
Well,
nice.
I did a race. I did a no limits endurance race the end of last year at Oulton Park, and like I felt like a kid. There was like the average age was probably like 55 or
Mega
60.
though, isn't it?
was
Yeah, I
like,
know
"What? This is
it's
mad."
mega.
And like they're all like burly Northerners, and I was like, shit, I feel a bit out of place here. And they're all the nicest people.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Proper like good crowd. Like my bike was an absolute nail, and people like helping, and it was just a real good dude, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like properly enjoyed it, but it's just mad how like I had people coming up to me like, "Oh, what are you doing? Riding road bike? You should be on motocross bike." And I was like, "Yeah, I just want to do something different." And I'm looking at them and they're like, "Yeah, I can't fucking do motocross no more. My body's fucked." And I'm like, "You just went past me doing 190 miles."
I know. It is like that though. Like the paddock in general is like everyone has like you could have like a police officer or like a SAS specialist or like an office furniture. Like, do you know what I mean? Like everyone has the weirdest like jobs, but you all come together because of that interest, and everyone loves it. And I think it's such a I mean. Like the BSB paddocks, obviously it's okay. I mean, the world paddock's a bit different. No one really talks to each other, and MotoGP is probably even a bit worse than that. But like the club racing stuff, mate, is mega, and everyone just wants to help and do well, and it's nice because of that. And
it surprised me. It really surprised me. Like going from a club motocross, I've done that obviously all my life, and then just doing that. Was well, well pumped with the vibe of everyone. Do you know what I mean? It was just cool.
Got any more planned races?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I was going to actually say, like, you obviously did the Arenacross. Are you literally never doing that again, or?
No, I'll do it. I reckon I'll do that every year now.
Yeah.
I love it. It's been good and like.
No pressure again, isn't it? You go there,
pressure.
rock up. You've got old mates that are still racing, like Tommy and that, still doing it.
Yeah, they're all full time. Do you know what I mean? I'm grafting like 55, 60 hours a week, and then I just go there and have a bit of fun. Do you know what I mean? I'm still all right at it. Still half decent. Been doing okay, and I know if I put a bit of effort in, I could be where I want to be. But at the same time, I don't really want to be anywhere.
What have you got to achieve in that? Yeah, you kind of tick that box.
Yeah, and it's fun and.
Got to go work Monday.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's just a good crack. And there's a little bit, obviously a bit of incentive to do it, which is cool. But also, mate, the crowds. There's been like full stadiums.
I saw that. Yeah, it's looked really good.
Yeah, it's been really good, and like everyone after it is like that was so good, like such a buzz. And they put us in these head-to-head things, and it's literally
they look carnage.
Yeah, it is. It's like a street fight.
Because Ashley Greedy, I grew up actually with Ashley at the suit when we used to do the Arenacross, and he was aggressive then. And like when you see these videos like circulating on Facebook, Greedy just absolutely smashing people.
He's been banned, so not banned, but all the riders this year, because basically this year they've gone from. So obviously Arenacross, motocross indoors with big jumps, it's a different sport to what I've done all my life. It's like a bit like you racing supermoto or something. It's completely different, isn't it? But similar. And there's like French and Italian journeymen that are really good at it, and their job is just to do that all year.
Like Bercy and doing big events,
and they get good money to do it. Do you know what I mean? And they'd get paid good money to come and do the British series. But since COVID, they stopped doing it, and fair play, the promoter looked at it and went, "Why don't we try and do an all British series?" So because people like myself and Tommy, we were, Tommy is contracted to race outdoors. He's on a salary. He gets, sensible money to race outdoors. So why is he going to want to do an indoor series against journeymen that are better than him? And they're fast
more
at
specific,
it. Maybe not better than him, but equally as good. In this small environment and risk quite a lot, big jumps, potential breaking legs when people are taking you out.
No point.
Why is he going to do it?
He'd rather stay at home and be training for the upcoming outdoor season. Yeah.
So they looked at it and went, right, let's give some incentive to some of these boys. Let's get some British guys in there and do an all British series. And it's really worked. Like I said, they've sold the stadiums out, but all of the guys were like, yeah, we'll do it, but I don't think we want Greedy there because we don't really want to get lynched by him.
And they literally,
which is a shame because do you know what? Ashley's really good at it. He's actually, he is good at it. And
he probably would bring a bit of a crowd as well.
Yeah, he definitely would, but you'd lose riders, I think, as well.
Right, I'm gonna go on to a little quiz. Only because it's like I've got a few motocross questions in there and things like that, and then we'll go back to the I want to obviously hear about the business and stuff like that. So, right, I've got 5 questions, which I've mustered up myself. Again, I need a name for this quiz. I don't know what it's called. It's just quiz at the minute. So I'm going to just test you. It's a bit of knowledge, really. So we'll see. Some of them, it's really hard because I don't want to be too easy, and then I'm like, anyway, who was the 2006 MXGP champ?
It was Everts in
Yeah.
2006.
And how many world titles did he have?
In the end of his career, 10.
10, yeah, easy. See that? This one's too easy now. We spoke about it. How big is Larocco's leap?
Yeah, it's 100. Yeah, well, I can't even. You actually
I
told
think it's
me.
140 foot.
Yeah. It's,
That's what that's what my notes say.
yeah.
How many championships did Ricky Carmichael win?
That's hard.
Piss myself off here because I've not actually wrote the answer next to it.
Google it. Do you know what? It's really tough because obviously they have 2 in a year, don't they?
Yeah, because they do the indoor-outdoor.
Yeah.
He literally comes up as the most successful racer, but
He must have 16 titles.
it's mad, isn't it? He did some winning.
He did double for years.
We need to get this. We need to get this on here. We need to get this. We need to know what this final number is. I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah.
Who finished second in the 2012 MXGP Championship? MX2
MX2.
in 2012.
Cell.
Yeah, Tommy. Yeah,
Yeah.
you was fourth. And who won it?
Yeah.
Who won it?
Hurlings.
Hurlings. Yeah.
And I beat Tixie at the last round for fourth. We were like
Literally,
2 points
yeah.
in it, and he was the factory KTM rider. And I beat him at the last round, mate. I was so buzzing.
Mate, when I was younger, I literally had this memory of Hurlings. Like, we was out in Spain, like doing the Spanish like boot camp thing that we used to do. And I was a little fat kid eating ham and cheese baguettes. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, just typical fuel. Like, Dad's got his old transit van there at the track. And there's this Suzuki team there. And like, every time the kids come in, they're air blowing it. They're like lubing the chain. They're like checking the spokes. And my dad's like, he's quick. He's like, the boy's quick, to be fair. There were 2 of them. Typical old man. He's like, right, next time he goes out, get your lid on. I'm going to send you out with him. See how you fare. It's all right, no worries. So I went out with him, mate, 6-7 laps, like with him, like having a bit of a battle type thing. He must have thought, what is this kid? Like, what's this fat English kid doing? And pulled off after 6 laps. I was like, I'm done.
Mate,
Blowing.
He kept up with him for 6 laps.
Blowing. No, I was blowing. He kept going. He honestly, like, until the point his mum had to stand on the jump, to stop. Literally, she stood on the jump. Do you remember the graveyard track in the graveyard track near Alicante in Spain? Right, you have to go through a graveyard to get to the track to
I
ride.
don't think I went down there.
So it was there, and and he literally was like, she was like, stop, and they were arguing, and mate, he just kept going, and it turns out it was Jeffrey Hurlings, and that track I was actually all right at, but the other tracks he was a bit quicker. He was doing some like 80-foot uphill double, mate, and an RM85.
He is savage.
Big jump, but his work rate then was nuts.
But even now, and like when I was in Belgium, he'd be at every track and just do 40 minutes and have to be dragged off a bike. Honestly.
Savage, isn't it? I know the
proper
fitness.
It's next level.
Right, how tall was Kendi Dyker?
In foot?
Foot or meters? You can,
I reckon he was 192 centimetres.
191.
Oh,
yeah.
That's close.
It's close, isn't it? And then I've got a bonus question. Who is the top shagging Jack Russell in the whole of Suffolk?
Ted.
He is, isn't
Definitely.
he? That does me up, mate. Your video. He needs an account. He needs an
come
account.
back last night from work at
Just
like
at it.
6:30 and he just spewed up on the floor, like just went bleh, like this little thing on the floor, like what the hell? And then within about 4 seconds, he's just on the back of Jeff.
Just top shagger, isn't he? Just anything.
Imagine just spewing up and then being like, right.
I'm going back. How old is he now? He's geezer.
8, I think
He's top geezer. I had to get that in there because your videos of him, mate.
He's got his own highlight reel on my Instagram page. It's worth having a look at.
And his little jacket, his little True Group jacket.
There's
like,
a dick written on there as well.
Does he literally go everywhere with you?
Everywhere.
Does he live at home with you then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he just goes to work with me every day of the week, and it's ridiculous now. Like, I just come in and
He's just there.
Sit there while I'm having a shower, just like that.
Yeah, like that, yeah,
if he could talk, I'd be in problems.
Yeah, it'd be more funny actually. Be some weird combos.
Yeah,
wouldn't it? Yeah. Fucking looking at me, dog. Get out. Yeah, yeah. That and then obviously, yeah. So now you're obviously you're on a different journey, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, like we said about the business, like your granddad and the family, like the Nicholls blood is business through and through, isn't it? And so one of my questions obviously was, so you kind of had that conversation with Dad. He wanted you to come into the business early on, and now he's got his own way.
Yeah, pretty much. So there was I don't know can't really remember what the saying is, but like a light bulb moment whereby I was, he was really moaning at me about racing still. I think it was like 2000. I think it was before I'd finished. So basically, he sold his business in 15, and was like, "Yeah, I'm going to buy a yacht and just cruise around," because he could. Do you know what I mean? You know, fair play. He'd built up and got paid out good for the business. And then he started this business straight away. Like 2 months later, my mum was like, "What is wrong with him?" Like, and mum was like, "Don't be done in by him," because she knew what it'd be like once he starts. It's go again.
There's full gas. That's it. Yeah,
exactly. And so she was like, you need to like, what is wrong with your dad? So I kind of felt like obliged to say like, what are you doing, mate? And he just like sat down and was like, you don't understand. This is my life, blah, blah, blah. And I went back to him, and I don't know if you do this, but I do this every now and again where I say stuff and I'm like, I listen to myself. I'm like, did I just say that? Like, that's weird. And I was like, I just came out of it because I was a bit revved up. I was like, we were going back and forward, and I was like, you don't understand, because he had a massive dig at me about racing when I went to him about work. He was like, you're still racing, like that. And I was like, you don't understand. You're wheeling and dealing, and that's your buzz. My buzz is racing. And he went, right, well, we're sorted then, aren't we? And I was like, he's like, you've just understood exactly how my mentality is, and I've understood how your head works. And it was like, okay.
God, Dad, I can see why you're so good at selling things.
Yeah, I just kind of like got it though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, that's his crack.
Yeah.
And so, and then obviously I had this injury, and I went to him and said like, can I come, I want to work with you? And he was like the happiest man alive, literally wanted me to be sat next to him. And I was like, no, I can't sit in this office and work with you, because like I said, you sit in there. And he's like literally on the phone doing this, doing that. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. So I ended up basically at that point, we were a recycling firm. So we had tippers and a big recycling wash plant. So you put muck off a building site in there, it washes them, you get stone, you get sand out of it, and then you get like a waste product, which is clay. And it was like a £3 million investment. And that was like the baby of the business that we had. So I just said, look, I'm going for 6 months. I'm learning about that. So he never asked me to come to the business, never said like timings or whatever. But I basically went to the guys down there and were like, what are the hours? I want to like just follow you around. There was a guy who looked after it solely. And did 7 till 6 with them pretty much straight off the bat, which was horrendous, to be honest with you.
Hard to get into.
Yeah, it was so hard. And my hip was still bad, so I like was struggling to walk around a bit. So I ended up jumping in the machine, because there's an excavator that has to load it basically. So I did that for a long time, and once I got over like the hours, I was okay, because it was quite mundane, just loading the machine and put my earphones in or whatever. But after 6 months, Dad was like, "You need to come in the office now. I don't want you driving machines all your life." So I came in the office, and that's where the hard part started, because I felt really worthless.
Because you haven't got a corporate background, isn't it? And
I don't have a skill. Like, I'm not a salesperson. You're
not admin. You've not had that. Like,
exactly.
I get that.
If I answer the phone, I don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
To take a
Something
hire inquiry.
What do you want?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was difficult. And with racing, I've been a person that runs on confidence. If I know what I'm doing, I'll talk, or if I know what I'm talking about, I'll talk about it. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm out.
You're kind of like lean a bit of...
I'm not blagging it. Do you know what I mean? So it was tough. Really, really had like 6 months where I was like all over the place, because I say 6 months, it was probably like 4 or 5 months, because I started riding a bit once my hip got better at the weekends and kind of cleared my head a bit.
Yeah.
But for a point, I was like, I don't know where I'm going with this, because I don't know whether I need to be, I tried to learn about how they run the transport of the lorries. I tried to learn about the hire of the excavators, and was kind of just in limbo. And then Dad was like, "I'll come meet this guy who he's bought trucks off for years." And I'm like, all right. And in these conversations, not knowing what people are talking about. So I was in a muddle. And then I eventually kind of just put myself in charge of digger drivers, because basically we had a non-compete agreement where we couldn't hire out machines on self-drive basis, because that's what the business that we'd sold.
Yeah.
So we were hiring machines out with drivers, and I'm talking like 10 at the time. And I kind of slowly took over that and sat on the hire desk for when people called, and kind of built up. And then in 2018, we could officially like do hire again, like we were.
What numbers you got now? You said 10 now. What have you got?
So it's like 150 drivers most of the time. So that's just digger drivers.
Yeah, that's mad.
That's quite a few. So, but that I ended up sitting on the hire desk, and because I treat them as my machines. They're the businesses, but it's obviously it's ours. I've got and I'm involved with all the buying of the machines. I've got a good understanding, so I learnt really quickly about what's what. Do you know what I mean? And obviously I was in the deep end with it, but equally I built up this operated plant thing to. By the time I handed it over to someone, there was 80 people, and that was under my phone, just under me.
Yeah,
so
mega.
It was sort of like I grew with the business. Do you know what I mean? There was like 20 people when I started. There's 310 people there now. but I kind of have gone with it. So
Yes, you've understood it.
that was a process. You know what I mean? Whereas if I was to march in now, finish racing, march in, mate, I don't know how I'd do it, and without like riding at the weekends a bit and still having a bit interested, and obviously I was still professional. You know, like I had 6 months of injury when I started working, but then 18 I was back racing every weekend for the British Championship. So it helped me, because I think if I was just work, I'd have been mullered.
And I've got a couple of questions to ask you on that anyway, but like the skills that, like I was saying to you earlier, like the skills you learn in motocross, like coming through as a professional athlete, like communicating to sponsors, talking to people, like providing them a service, like the pressure, the resilience, like the stress, like the stress that motorbike, or not even motorbike, like the stress that athletes go through, like
Life and death. That's what
it's
I
mad.
say to
It is, isn't
people.
it? Like it's unbelievable the stress you go through, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
it is.
do you think that changed when you had your baby? Like, how old's your kid now?
She's free. I'll
She's
be
free,
honest. That didn't do anything to me, and I feel bad saying that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people around me that were like, "Oh, you wait to have your kid, you'll probably finish racing," and I can hand on heart say, and I think it's because deep down I'm a really selfish person. It didn't affect me.
Yeah, don't change your man. You love your kid, but he's saying it didn't change the way that you change. Yeah. Well,
I get on the start line, and it's like, boom, I'm done.
You're doing
I'm
your
out.
job. Yeah,
I'm there. Do you know what I mean? So good and bad about that, I guess. But you know, you have to be extremely selfish to be a racer. I'm sorry, you know that
you are.
The best racers are the most selfish people, and the ones that can slow things down in their head enough. Do you know what I mean?
Johnny Ray said it before. I'm sure it was Johnny. He said you have to be like that. You have to have that bit of bastard about you, like to be successful.
100%. But also, my dad's savagely selfish as well, because you have to be in the business. Do you know what I mean?
It's even worse in the corporate world.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a mix there of that, which is, I guess, like I say, it's good and bad, but the transfer to work is. You have to be so dedicated to be a motorbike racer. You have to help yourself, and I think that's something that's an amazing attribute for racers, is that you can help yourself. You know, I will find myself a job in this place.
I will find, and I'll navigate from A to B, like your dad's done with the business. Like you kind of have that in a different way. Yeah. You still have that ability to find out why.
You can be asked. You can be asked, because you had to be asked, because it was only you that was going to fail on Sunday afternoon if you hadn't been asked in the week. Do you know what I mean? You've got to get off your ass and do it. So turning up for work every day is easy compared to what we did, compared to what I did. Do you know what I mean? I think it's easy. The hardest thing is dealing with people. That is something that has still to this day, and I don't think it will ever stop, but amazes me, because to be a racer, I think you're fairly simple, as in not simple as in you're thick, but you have basic guidelines to your life and where you're going and where your mind's
and
at.
who you need to talk to, and
exactly.
You deal with similar people, like the fans. When you talk to the fans, you give them your time. It's mega, it's fine, but you don't have very deep conversation with your fans. You kind of simply
you've got a direction.
And you're like, right, cheers, thank you, on to the next year. Yeah,
having this weird agenda, it doesn't work, because you're just going one way. And all of a sudden you're dealing with people and you're like, where are you coming from? I don't understand. Like, we're just here to do a job, aren't we? Like, you're not taking this headache home with you. You go home at 5 and
it's
put
done.
the TV on. Like, we're the ones that are going home with a headache and
worried about paying their wages or paying people's wages or paying stuff. I get that.
So that's something that still to this day is and was particularly hard, coming from a racing background where you dealt with a mechanic that would do anything for you, a team manager that most of the time would be the same, and that was it. No one else. Didn't have to deal with anyone else.
That's it, yeah.
Trainer, I never really had a trainer. I had someone that sent me a program and watched my things on the internet with my watch, but that was it. Nothing. So then you're in the deep end with people, and it's like, wow, the
corporate world. Yeah. And how was it for you? Like the pressure, like your dad's run obviously now, like at this point, a couple of like multiple successful businesses, let's say.
Yeah.
How did you feel did you feel like, oh shit, like I've got pressure, like to perform, like?
Yeah.
Did your dad he might not have pressured you, but did you just feel that sort of pressure yourself? Like, I need to do a good job here. Like he has done a good job, and
I've managed to swerve the pressure thing, I think, because I just feel like I'm doing my own thing a little bit.
And you started in the deep end, and you literally put yourself, like you said, in the excavator, and you just started at the bottom.
And I can hand on heart say, no one has ever told me to go to work or told me what time to be there and what time to go home. I just wanted to do it.
Because you need to, didn't you? For that level of respect for the staff. And,
exactly that. And so from that side, I don't really feel... I feel pressure being a third generation. Everyone always says in business, third generations fail. And and obviously the business is a big concern now. It's a big headache. Do you know what I mean? There's, we've got, near 2,000 bits of kit out.
You said 300 staff.
Yeah, 300 staff, and it's not particularly getting any smaller. And a lot from that side, there's a lot of pressure, but I don't really feel pressure. He's still there. Do you know what I mean? I think I'll only become my own man the day he's not there. Do you know what I mean? And I think he did the same. He was well in deep with the business from the age of 11, and then his dad died when he was 36. I think when my dad was 36, his dad passed away in the yard. So
because your granddad was a grafter as well,
yeah,
wasn't he?
Yeah, literally he died in the yard, and so that was when my dad stepped up. Do you know what I mean?
Because he had to.
Yeah, and he was good at work then. He was non-stop, flat out, but he then stepped up, and I don't want that to happen. I'm not chasing that to happen, of course, because I want, I learn from him every day of the week. But I think that's when the tide changes. Do you know what I mean? Because my dad's a character that's not going to retire. He's 60
He's going to sit in that office, isn't he? He's going to sit in that office. He's going to be in that office, mate.
Yeah,
he could be 80 years old if he sat in that office and his phone on.
But he is pushing bits over to me slowly but surely, and I think he does it without realising, and I do it as well. So it's not a bad combo. It works all right. But yeah, sometimes third generation thing, it does a bit of pressure there.
What's the goal with the business? Do you speak with that with your dad, or is it more of a just keep going type thing? Or
it's a very reactive business in day to day, as well as the plan in the grand scheme of things. But it's just to be good at what we do, provide a good service, and earn money.
Because you're family business, aren't you? That's literally a big family business, isn't it? It's mega, isn't it? Yeah.
There's not much middle management there. Do you know what I mean? We're there every day. We're in the office where pretty much everyone is who's office based. So, and it will, of course, as it gets bigger, we'll have to have layers a little bit. And we're building a new building, so all of a sudden people are going to be split up.
Heard about that.
So
office furniture.
Yeah, there you go. So that's going to be hard, because we're going to have to obviously, people see us and the way we are and the way my dad is, and they work like us. That's how businesses work, right? You lead by example.
You have to, the respect. Your dad likes the yard clean. The yard's immaculate.
Exactly. Comes in every day, says hello to everyone, buzzy, even though he's feeling like shit, he's still buzzing. Do you know what I mean? And our task is going to be, when we've got 2 buildings or 3 offices or whatever, we're going to have to keep that going. We can't rely on other people just to keep that. We're going to have to be present in different places. So that's going to be part of the challenge. But it's all good fun, really.
And that's it then. So you're going to be obviously hands-on in the business, and you 50, 60 hours a week, you said you're just doing.
Yeah.
Oh.
7 till 6.
Yeah.
So and then weekends we're in there. Often Dad's selling bits and pieces. Dad's really still hardcore wheeler dealer.
He loves it though. Just enjoys it.
He's good at that. There's something I don't like about myself, is I'm not as good or not involved at selling things as he is. But perhaps that'll happen one day. But every Saturday there's always something going on. So
it's mega though. It's a natural thing as well. A bit of selling, isn't it? Like wheeler dealing.
Yeah. And he's just he's good at it. That was what started everything.
Is your mum hoping he's going to slow down so he can go on more holidays? Or
no, she's realised. She realised when I did that it won't happen, and he's an arse when he's at home.
So she gets a few holidays a year anyway with him, and that's
So he's never been able to go on holiday because he's scared of flying.
My dad genuinely the same.
Yeah,
drives everywhere. Drives to Spain next week or in 2 weeks. Yeah.
So now he's realised. I said, look, pay for first class and go on one of these massive aeroplanes, and you won't know if you're taken off or landed. And that mixed with shitloads of Valium, and he's
I was going to say, and
does
some,
it twice a year
some
now.
whiskey or something.
So mum's getting a bit of a holiday, but I think she just avoids it when they're there.
Yeah. Go off and do your own thing.
Yeah, he's just aggro because he's just
But I think it's a generational thing, because if you look at the generation, our parents' generation, they had to graft. There wasn't YouTube, there wasn't this and that, there wasn't podcasting, or do you know what I mean? There wasn't these different things then. It was if we're going to be successful, I've got to build a business, and to build a business, I've got to put in 100 hours a day.
Exactly.
That's how it is. And I guess we were talking earlier about Bill Gates. I said to you, Bill Gates was I work 24 hours a day. I love it. It's my life. If that's your dad's life and what he does, it's mega, isn't it?
That's the biggest task we've got now, actually, is with businesses, in that generation. And I feel like I'm at the end of that generation of people that find themselves a job. So what I mean by that is we'll interview people to sit on the hire desk or to do this or that or whatever. And perhaps before, I've seen it happen. You interview them, you think sweet, and then you throw them in there. Don't give them any training or nothing, and they just find their way. Do you know what I mean? Now it's changed. Like, you can't do that now. You have to, really show people what you want doing, how it's done, and how the process is how we want that to be done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the difference. And like, going back to what you say, they had no choice. It was fucking.
There's a desk, there's a pen, there's a computer, there's a phone, whatever. Crack on, mate.
Yeah, literally, sink or swim. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now it's it's a different world. So, it's mad, really.
And what's your schedule like now? Do you still training much? Like, obviously, you're not at the minute because you're a bit beaten up.
Yeah, a bit second out at the minute. But generally, so it's 10K to work from my house. So I'll do that like once a week running. I'm not a very good runner because I broke legs and hips and stuff. So I'm
busted up, mate.
But I do that a bit. I'll always ride once or twice a week. Little bit of gym, but I hate gym, to be honest. Always hated gym. Hated gym, always. But I think it's because I've always done it on my own.
Yeah, that's probably
it's crap on your own, isn't it? Used to do yoga twice a week. I need to get back to that, to do it once a week on a Wednesday night, because
keep your joint,
aches and pains. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise just work. But I'm going to do like quite a few events this year. I've decided to just
motocross and tarmac.
Yeah, definitely. So don't know what I'm going to do tarmac wise, but I want to do more.
We've got to get you on that pit bike. I keep saying it. We're going to get you on that pit bike this summer. You'll lose
probably
it,
help
mate.
me.
You'll probably go pit bike racing. Genuinely, it's so much fun.
My biggest problem on road bikes, I just don't trust them, mate. I do not trust those things. I don't know how you boys do it. I cannot trust front end like you guys do.
Got to, mate. Just got to full send it.
I know,
but it's like anything. Once you've done it a while and you have that feeling, or you've crashed, or you go, oh, I know what that feeling is now, and you kind of
still not crashed.
Yeah, have you not? It's trial and error. That's why you don't trust it. Just go down into that turn 4 hairpin, mate, or turn 2 hairpin at Snetterton. Just grab a handful of front brake, lay her over. Take some spare fairings with you, and you go, right, that's the limit. I am not pushing. Have you got standard suspension on it still?
No, so I bought a Triumph now.
Yeah.
765.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And then had the suspension done by K-Tech. It's all brand new. So
you're not ridden it yet?
No.
Mate, that would be a game changer, trust me, because you say to people on track days, like, when you get, they'll go round and they'll circulate and they'll be quite quick, and you go, right, now I can see the bike needs a bit of work doing to it, like suspension. No, don't leave it. It's like, mate, trust me, just look, try this, try that. I wouldn't do it personally. I would phone up K-Tech because I'm useless.
No,
but and they go, right, do this, do that. And honestly, without knowing, you go quicker just through feeling. Yeah, just like motocross.
Yeah.
I got Tommy was at a practice bike, Moto 101. Tommy was like, go on, have a go on my bike, his practice bike. Mate, I got on it. It's a 450 KXF, and the thing was so stiff. And I was like, mate, how you? He's like, we need it stiff for the obviously how hard you boys ride them.
Yeah.
And I got off my little sofa, like I had a 450 KX at the time, and I was like, oh, this is really nice and soft. But yous are the same. The bikes are so stiff, aren't they?
Yeah, they are stiff. But no, I'm buzzing about that. I'm hoping that it will help me trust it a bit, because I've got a feel, but I need to get that trust, and I'm not like one of those people that can just go, fuck it, see what happens, and just
you'd be alright. Once you have your first crash, you'd be like, that actually didn't even hurt.
Yeah,
hurts more skiing. I can tell you that now.
How's your?
And I 3 stitches, mate. I got called the 3-stitch bitch by my mates while I was out there. It's true. I got stitched up for me. It was sore. I didn't want to get infected.
What's your plan anyway this year?
Plan is just BSB champ, mate. That's the goal. Yeah, I mean,
good end to the season. Really,
good end to the season. Really motivated. Yeah, like the team, the bike, everything just come together from the middle of the season. Really, we sort of really made some big improvements, and I think realistically now we can fight for the championship next year, and that's the kind of I think after having a really strong end of the year, that motivation sits really high. Because you obviously you're only as good as your last race. So so highly motivated, mate. Teams all coming together around me. Obviously this kind of time of year now, it's like in the season, not eating a lot. Like for me, I'm trying to just get back down to race weight.
Because you had a tough start last year.
Oh, mate, it was tough. I got a bit ill last year. Weirdly, I got ill and I didn't really know. I wear a Garmin all the time, and I was kind of getting a bit, my heart rate was higher than normal, and I was like training and I weren't really recovering very well. I was sleeping all right, and I just didn't feel, and I was out on the push bike once and I could only sit behind my mates, couldn't lead. It was really weird, and I was like, mate, something's not right here. Kept going racing and did 2 rounds, did Oulton Park, and at Oulton Park I was ill for a test day there, and then we went to the race and Matt was in a pickle, and I had to call my nutritionist up at the time, Brad, and say, mate, I need you to help me get through this weekend. Like I need some higher sugar substances to just get me through. I was literally up before race 1. I went and had a burger and chips from the restaurant because I just had nothing in me. So I remember like 7 laps into the race, and I just was like, ugh, gone.
Really?
Yeah, and I've never had fatigue like it, and it was because I had. I just basically had something wrong with not my blood, but the iron levels in my blood.
Okay, I've had that.
Yeah, mate, it was so bad, and literally got over that. And so at the minute, I'm training hard and just eating. I'm eating clean because I think I'm not drinking just because I had like a beer when I was skiing. Just trying to do everything I can, possibly.
You've got to keep away from that though, because once your iron's down, it takes ages to get that back
horrible,
right. Isn't it?
Honestly, like I was really bad, and thankfully, probably like. It did without a doubt hinder my championship. And if you want to win this championship or any championship, you can't be 10th, 11th.
No.
Worst place like 5th, 6th, 7th. So
and is your bike much different?
no. I mean, there's BMW have made some quite big changes, but I'm yet to find out exactly what is going to be different. We start testing in March, so
Wicked.
a little while now. Just literally
it,
in the gym and just man, I can't wait to ride a bike. I've not ridden anything, not motocross, not pit bike, nothing since October.
Holy.
So once I'm back, once I'm all fixed, I'm going to start getting back out.
Yeah.
It's too cold to ride. Like you said, the track's frozen. Like it's all frozen up, and
You need to get on it though.
man, I'm going to get on it. I'm going to probably get over Mildenhall, see my old mate Cliff,
Yeah.
go over there, throw
The
myself.
track's in perfect condition.
Yeah. Go on, Cliff. Cliff, it's not in good nick, mate, right now. No, it's all
It's
right.
a foot deep in shit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect.
No, just scrape it off. We'll be all right. So, but
We'll
yeah,
get you
mate.
up mine then.
Yeah. Oh no.
Once you're
Yeah.
in tune though,
We're gonna have to get these boys up there with the YouTube. We're gonna have to get you up there with the camera and watch me absolutely flop over one of them jumps. No, I will get up
to
there.
put your big boy pants on.
No, I'll be all right. I'll full send it, mate. But do you know what? Like we were saying, like the physical side of motocross for road racing or like for tarmac, like just going out and riding. Like I try and do 30-minute motors on the motocross bike.
It's got to be so good for you.
It's so hard, and you get on the road bike and you feel mint.
It's got to be so good for you. Like I was in pretty good shape when I did that 3-hour race, and like I said, I'm or 4-hour, whatever it was. I'm going slow, so I'm using half the energy that you guys would. I know that, but I found it so easy to do. Like we were doing 40-minute stints, and I've found it fairly easy. Do you know what I mean?
Easier than being beaten the shit out by a motocross bike.
But I know if I was going 40 minutes at your speed, it would be a different thing. I get
mate, that is hard. Yeah, we do. I think our races are like 20. I think roughly 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Like so, they're kind of wherever you are is obviously 28 minutes. And mate, it's hard. Like Cadwell Park last year, like trying to keep the intensity up. It was like,
mate, they're big bikes around that place.
Man, you're trying to do lap times within like a couple of attempts of each other consistently, and it's like I just kept thinking like one more lap. One more lap. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh, one more lap. Come on, just one more lap.
I had a massive, my only huge moment on a road bike there at Cadwell.
Over the mountain?
No. So off
Did you
the
jump
start,
in the mountain?
Not really.
No, you will. You
just
will.
like.
Yeah, time, mate.
Yeah.
Give yourself time.
But you know, off the start, the left, then that long right.
Or Charlie's too. Or
and I came over the brow and I was like trying to get near the inside because it's like a shitty little curve there on the inside of it, and it just went that, and just sat me up. I was like, that was what it's like.
Wait till you get the old Trumpy,
like,
mate, out there. Because the thing with the Triumph is it's got so much torque that you have to sit up a little bit more.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but you'll learn it. Mate, it's feeling.
So it's the 765 triple made into like with a fairing and that on it.
Yeah,
so it looks like the
So it's got the Moto 2 engine in there.
Yeah,
mate. Oh, you'll love that. Yeah, that's proper.
Should be.
Proper.
It's been built proper.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be
you
good.
get Alpine Star levers?
I've got some.
Yeah, factory.
I've got some. Yeah.
Shout them out, Alpine Star. I'm back with them this year. Yeah.
I had some well old ones before. I bought them in 19, so they were so small.
Yeah.
I could barely get a back protector in, and I was like that.
Crashing them, they'll literally just rip up the seam.
Were they?
You'd just be in your pants.
Yeah,
sliding down the track.
But they're gone. So airbag suit now. I haven't used it yet. Hopefully it fits.
No, you'd be
Seems
good, mate.
right.
We'll get out. We'll do a track day.
I'd like to.
Yeah, we'll do
You
it.
boys don't get out though.
Nah, I've got a practice bike coming, so we'll get out on that.
Actually?
Yeah, I've got so my team have made me like a practice bike, and
wicked.
it's mad. We were talking about the other day, like to have a practice bike, like a standard, let's say BMW's like £36,000, then they turn them into like a real good super stock bike because of our rules. We're not allowed to ride superbikes. So, mate, you think to yourself, it's like a 42 grand bike, and the team are giving that to ride. It's mad, isn't it? And you don't realise how lucky you are, obviously. But it's a bigger picture for the team to give you that bike. It benefits all of us because obviously it helps with the results.
Well, and it looks good when you turn up.
Yeah, proper. Imagine if I turn up on an old nail. Right.
Yeah, it's a huge impact. You guys turn up and then they see you go around 20 seconds a lap quicker than everyone else, and they're like,
Buy that.
yeah, it's a standard bike. I can buy that bike. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, buy it, 100%. Yeah,
which is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll get out. I'm also going to do a few track days, so.
Wicked.
But that's it, mate. Yes, yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Obviously, yeah, everyone's just got to subscribe and all that kind of thing that you do with all these channels, like and subscribe. Yeah, like and subscribe. Yeah. But no, mate. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and yeah, we'll have to have another chat.
Definitely.
In the end of the year, see how you're getting on.
See what else has been going on.
See how stressed you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Cheers, mate. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pushing the Limit podcast. Be sure to keep an eye on our socials for next week's guest. Goodbye.
Boom, boom. Danny Buchan. What a ride this is, and it is on.